Welcome to Grade 6 Physical Science Interactive Notebooks video. I'm Chris Williams. Some of the benefits of interactive notebooks. There are many benefits, but some of them that I feel like are really great are number one, all the students' work is in one place. I find that really helpful for the kids and also for me when we're trying to track something down. Secondly, if done well, it's a great study tool. We do emphasize that, and that is our goal. So we work towards that this year in 6th grade. Thirdly, scientists use notebooks to keep track of their information they gather. So when we are doing that, we're imitating scientists, which makes sense when we're in science class. Lastly, in grade 6, they will learn about physical science. They will not learn more physical science until 9th grade. This tool is a great primer and also helpful for studying for the 8th grade MCAs, which does cover physical science material. So hopefully you and your child will come to value interactive notebooks. I feel like they're really great. I love them. So what do you need to know about interactive notebooks? First of all, there's left side pages and right side pages, and they're not the same. And we'll talk more about those in the slides to come. Also, Cornell Notes is something that we use. We'll explain more of that further, and then just some general expectations. So let's talk about the left-hand side and the right-hand side. First, we'll talk about the right-hand side. This is the side we always do first, and it is the input side. It's where we're putting in the information into your child's brain. And often it's in the form of Cornell Notes, but not always, not exclusively. Often it's taken from the textbook or from a PowerPoint or something like that. Also, it does require, when we do Cornell Notes, follow-up at home, like possibly writing questions or writing a summary or paying attention to some effective highlighting. Conversely, the left-hand side is the output side. So this is where we creatively show what we've learned on the right-hand side, and we show it in a different way that's more creative. These kinds of pages could be diagrams or letters or songs or cartoons or one-pagers or just all kinds of different things. Sometimes we do bullseye diagrams or Venn diagrams. Here are some examples, not examples, but here are some pages in your child's INB that walks you through more of the details. This is on page 6 and 7 in your student's INB. As you can see here, this is a student's copy, and they did practice their highlighting on it. This would be a great resource to look at more specifically in your child's INB if you want to see the details. On this slide, you see two different examples of students' work. On the right-hand side is the Cornell Notes about the scientific method. You see that highlighted, the topic highlighted in green at the top. And then we have our essential question next, which is what is the scientific method? We have the page number 19 and the date 9/7/16. And then the information of notes, which they worked on highlighting. And then on the left-hand side, we have some questions that they wrote about their notes. And at the bottom of that page, we have the summary, which answers the essential question, what is the scientific method? So that's an example of a student-generated Cornell Notes page that we did model and walk through together in class. On the left-hand side, the students had been learning about the scientific method and also the engineering design process and had been comparing and contrasting them. And so the assignment for the students that night was to write a letter to grandma, and they needed to explain to the grandma about the scientific method and then compare and contrast that with the engineering design process. So this was a great example about one of our students. Okay, so Cornell Notes, you saw an example of that on the last slide. Cornell Notes is a systematic way of taking notes for students to gain the most benefit from their notes, and it is something that we use school-wide in grade 6, but also at the high school. There's lots more information about the Cornell Notes at the Spectrum website, and the next slide shows you where to find that more specifically. Again, just like you saw in that example, you do have a heading at the top where the topic of the title is included and the essential question, we call it the EQ. And also the date is put by the page number. If it's a loose leaf Cornell Notes paper, then you should have the hour and the class and your student's name and those kinds of things. But with our INBs, we can just write the date by the page number. Next, the notes section is where the student writes down all the notes from class or the reading or the PowerPoint. And then the section to the left is the question section, and that's where they write a question for each chunk of information. And then at the bottom of that page is a summary section, and that's where they answer the EQ, and it may include the answers to the side questions. Every teacher does their summary a little bit differently. I do like to try to have them record their answers to the side questions as well. Here's the page that shows the Spectrum website. And so if you click under for students, you drop down and it has academics, and then you go to the side arrow, and then you can see the gray bar that says Cornell Notes. When you click on that, you come to a whole bunch of different links and information pieces that will help explain Cornell Notes more thoroughly if you're wondering about that. Whoops. Okay, and then also in your students' INB on page 5, this is a great resource that we put in there to help them write different levels of questions. So we've talked about in an AVID class Costa's level of thinking, and so we talked about level 1 is pretty basic, and you can find the information by just pointing at your information in your interactive notebook. Level 2 is a little bit higher level thinking. One that we like to use in 6th grade is compare and contrast. Compare and contrast one kind of science tool to another kind of science tool or something like that. And then a level 3 question is the highest level question, and it takes all of the things that you've been learning about in not just 1 hour or 1 page, but a lot of things, and then you put that forward thinking. So you design something, you predict something, you imagine something in the future. We encourage the students to write all different kinds of level questions, not get stuck at just writing level 1 and not have everything be imaginative and futuristic either, but all different varieties of levels are good. Then lastly, our last slide here talks about just general expectations. Generally, we just want students to do their best. We want them to make it readable so that they can go back and use it again and interact with it and use it as a study tool. Hopefully, students will find INBs to be valuable and really do use them a lot and do them for themselves, not for their teacher. On the left-hand side is an example of our interactive notebook checks that we do pretty regularly in science class. So the students fill in their name and their hour and their date, and then we have a spot where it's corrected by, and we use clock buddies for that. And so we correct everybody's all at once using clock buddies, and we do it pretty systematically using a doc cam so that they can see exactly what they're looking for and make corrections. I think it's good for students to see each other's work and also have that accountability knowing somebody else is going to be looking at theirs, so there should be some pride in doing theirs decently for that purpose too. And then as you see, everything has different points associated with it, and these don't really change a whole lot as far as the Cornell Notes pages. The students really get pretty good at knowing what to expect and what the expectation is. And every page has some points acquainted with it so that students know that everything they do has some value to it. At the bottom, we have a parent signature and date, and that is there for you to just acknowledge that you see your child's score. It gives you an opportunity to talk to them about what they did well or what they missed, maybe encourage them, maybe just have some conversations with them that you'd like to that would be encouraging them to do better possibly. So just signing that and dating that lets me know that you've seen it so that you're in the loop and we don't have any surprises or questions that come up at the end of the quarter that you didn't know about. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any further questions, I'm available via email pretty easily. And if you'd like to schedule an appointment before or after school, email me and we can sure set something up if you have further questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I hope it was helpful.